Avery, whose show is this? And we're live. Welcome everybody here to the Lakers Lounge podcast. I'm Anthony Irwin, Senior Lakers Insider for Clutch Points, and today on the show we will be talking about big dudes, centers. The Lakers need probably a couple of them, at least two, maybe three, depending on how they feel about Christian Koloko. So we'll talk about their pursuit of those centers. I wrote about it for Clutch Points. I have the piece open here off to the side, so I will reference it at points. I'll put the link in the comments while I talk as well, so that if you guys are interested or so inclined to reading and sharing, that'd be cool. So that is in the comments there waiting for you as well. And then, yeah, this will be a semi-shorter show. The reason being, I will be live with Kirk tomorrow morning to review Kirk Henderson, that is, of Mavs Moneyball and Pod Maverick. He and I are going to review Luka Doncic's season and see what he thought about what he saw from Luka last season with the Lakers. So we'll talk about that. We'll answer some questions there at the very end of the show too. Quick reminder, please do hit subscribe wherever it is that you guys are watching right now. If you guys are on Twitter, head on over to youtube.com/@LakersLounge to find the show there. If you guys are on YouTube already, hit that subscribe button and then hit that like button. That's a nice thing to do as well. And also tell your friends about the show too. If you guys are listening to this in the morning via podcast, please hit subscribe wherever it is that you get podcasts, preferably on Odyssey, because I am a company man. Boom. Let's go ahead and get into the Lakers' very early pursuit of centers, the center market so far, some of the speed bumps that Rob Pelinka has already run into, and all that good stuff. All right, so first and foremost, at the NBA Combine, you have teams get together. And essentially, once a team's season ends, they can begin talks with other teams whose season has also ended about players. They can talk about trades. They can do this, that, and the other. And that really kind of steps up a notch at the NBA's draft combine, because typically vast majority of teams that are there, their seasons are over. You have all these executives and major NBA folks in the same room at the same time. And that's where a lot of the off seasons kind of trade and free agency chatter kind of begins. It's kind of the unofficial gun firing, or start your engines, I guess. And at that draft combine, one of the most active people, and he has remained that kind of active since, was Rob Pelinka, who knows he needs a center. He said at his exit interview that he knows that the Lakers need a big guy. Because I'm always just kind of inherently skeptical about a lot of this stuff, that raised a bit of a red flag for me, because it was like, a big guy, one. I sound like my son. He loves cars and he always asks for the number of the movie. So yeah, one. But what I'm told is that was a poor turn of phrase, and that the Lakers understand that they need multiple bigs with versatile skill sets that don't overlap too much. There's always going to be some overlap. And, from there, the Lakers will try to piece together as best they can in one offseason a center rotation that makes a lot more sense than the one that they finished the season with last year. I'll also talk a little bit about that center rotation and how most of those people are probably not going to be back. So we'll discuss that as well. But yeah, at the trade deadline, or at the NBA draft combine there in Chicago, Rob just kind of fielded talks, and that carried over into the conversation that has taken place since, where you work the phones. Basically, and we've explained this on the show before, but what essentially happens is executives will have or decision makers will have their Rolodex there in front of them, and they will maintain pretty constant conversation, especially with teams that have players that they might be interested in. And they'll just kind of check in and say, "Hey, been a little bit. What would it take for this and that? How you feeling about this? What else are you looking for? What are you hearing that other teams are looking for? Maybe we can help facilitate that." All of that good stuff. It's a process that takes place all the time. And one of the people that Rob calls up about as frequently as any other executive in the league is Joe Cronin for the Portland Trailblazers. Now, dealing with them is a little iffy right now because you have the pending sale and that sale process that was now officially kicked off. So Joe Cronin, to what extent he's allowed to make big macro decisions. In light of that, that obviously is worth discussing at a later date. But still, Joe Cronin, with those Portland Trailblazers, we've talked about DeAndre Ayton on the show last time with Trevor Lane. We've talked about Robert Williams in the past, even though he has that really iffy injury history. The Lakers were in pretty constant conversations last year over the summer about a Jeremy Grant trade that never came to fruition, in large part because Portland was asking for 2 first rounders and Rui and Vando, and the Lakers were like, "No, we're good." And now Rui is just a better player than Grant. But still, when you have conversations to the extent that the Lakers have with the Portland Trailblazers, it does at least kind of lay the foundation for maybe someday a trade to take place between those two sides. Now, it needs to be noted, Rob, the way that he negotiates, I've reported on this before, he kind of sort of sets his price, and either you're at that price or you're not, and he'll check back in whenever the price reaches a point that he is more comfortable with. Dorian Finney-Smith was somebody that the Lakers liked for multiple years, and waited and waited and waited and waited, and then eventually Doe's price dropped below a first rounder. The Lakers quickly acted, and they went out and got him. And I think that's essentially what we're looking at here with the bigs on the market is right now, with all of the conversations that the Lakers are having with any executive out there, that conversation starts at the package that the Lakers were ready to offer up for Mark Williams of the Charlotte Hornets. Now, obviously, that trade was rescinded. Mark Williams failed his physical and all of that stuff. But essentially, in all of these conversations, and Dan Wojcicki was on the show a little while ago, I think it was last week, talking about this as well. But basically, every executive that the Lakers are talking to starts the conversation with a first rounder, Dalton Connect, and expiring money that you need to match up whatever salaries. And for some bigs, maybe you entertain that, right? For a Nick Claxton, you entertain that. For a Daniel Gafford, you probably entertain that. Outside of that, though, there aren't too many bigs that are realistically available that you'd be comfortable offering that up. But that's not stopping the Joe Cronins of the world from demanding that package for Robert Williams, despite the fact that he is made of paper mache. So, the issue that the Lakers are essentially running into right now is everybody knows that they are desperate for a big. And on top of it, everybody knows that the Lakers are especially desperate for a big while they can try to convince Luka Doncic to extend longer term to remain in LA. And whatever, the thinking out there around the league is whatever big the Lakers are able to go out and get, well, that's going to help you convince Luka. Well, you better pay up if you're really interested in convincing Luka to stick around. So, those are all things that are all going on at the same time, and those are all conversations that the Lakers are having right now. And they'll continue to have those conversations, and we'll see how those play out. But as of right now, at least to start the show, this first segment, I think the point of this first segment and the thing that you guys, I hope, take away from this above everything else, that the Lakers know that they need multiple centers. They know that they need a lob threat for Luka. They would like to have a floor spacing big as well for JJ's 5-out system in those moments that they can run that kind of strategy. And from there, we'll see how those conversations play out. Now, as far as some specific names, we already know about Nick Claxton. He's on the Lakers' radar. The Lakers have been in conversation with Brooklyn about Nick Claxton dating back to last deadline. Those talks have picked up as the Lakers have been allowed to. We know about Daniel Gafford, and we know about the recent trade history between the Dallas Mavericks and the Lakers that might complicate their pursuit of Daniel Gafford. But from what I'm told, it's slightly overblown, if not outright overblown, that if the Mavericks feel that a trade is best for them, they aren't gonna chop off their nose to spite their face. If Nico Harrison and Patrick Dumont and Michael Finley and the rest of that Dallas Maverick, Jason Kidd, who has a loud voice in that organization as well, if that organization, if that team, that franchise believes that whatever move it is that the Lakers and they come to an agreement on actually helps the Mavericks, yeah, maybe that price is slightly raised. But this idea that no way Nico would be allowed to trade with Rob Pelinka again, that's pretty overblown. I don't believe that is actually the case. And that doesn't mean a deal is definitely going to happen, but it does need to be said that they're all adults here. Dallas wouldn't have, I think they regret the blowback to the trade, and they were pretty ill prepared for the blowback to the trade. But I think from a basketball standpoint, the people who have made that trade have never said anything anywhere close to how they regret it or how they regret trading Luka. They probably regret how they traded Luka and the process in trading Luka and their handling of the backlash to trading Luka. But in terms of, if you were to give that organization truth serum and say, hey, would you trade Luka again? I think they probably would. So I that all needs to be said. But yeah, Nick Claxton, Daniel Gafford, those are the names that a lot of teams around the league kind of have circled to the Lakers in some shape or form. Not both of them, maybe not either of them, but that's kind of the popular kind of targets there. Others have reported on it. I've reported on it in the past. The other thing to keep in mind here, though, Rob talked about how this is going to be a very active summer transaction window, and teams are basically battening down the hatches, boarding up the windows, getting ready for what could be an absolutely chaotic summer. And you think of that from the top, right? Where Giannis might be on the move. Kevin Durant might be on the move. Jaylen Brown could be on the move. You could go down the list here, right? Once Luka gets traded, it opens up basically anything and almost anything, right? I don't think Victor Wembanyama is getting traded. I don't think Anthony Edwards is getting traded. I don't think Shea is getting traded. Hallie obviously isn't going anywhere. But I think we're entering like the scope to which things are possible is much broader, I think, than can possibly fathom right now. Is essentially what a lot of executives are prepping us for. Is we don't know, man, and this winds up helping the Lakers, in my opinion, and based on some of the conversations I've had, where yeah, every team is basically telling Rob right now, Dalton, a first, expiring money is what it's going to take to get any kind of center. An Eastern Conference executive told me any center that can walk and chew gum is going to cost Dalton and a first and expiring money. But the thing to keep in mind here is, as I talked about earlier, Rob likes to wait for the price to drop. And that price tends to drop as players' values drop, as teams get more desperate or more interested in making a move for whatever reason. And in this case, all of that chaos needs oftentimes to be facilitated by other teams around the league. And in this case, if the Lakers could help facilitate that trade, maybe get an extra asset, maybe make themselves a little bit more flexible, a little bit more nimble to be able to trade for a center. That's the kind of thing that we probably need to take a little bit more into account, is that this is very much reporting on all of this. It's always trying to throw a dart into a moving target. But in this case, it's trying to throw a dart at a moving target that is spinning and twirling and is sometimes behind you. And I think, this notion of what we kind of anticipate in a normal offseason, based on some of the conversations I've had, that needs to be kind of reimagined, and our expectations kind of need to be reconfigured. So, yes, Gafford, Claxton, those kinds of names are the ones that we're all thinking about. But we probably are, and this always happens with the Lakers, by the way, but the center that the Lakers wind up landing is probably not on our radar right now, because we may not know which players we should have on our radar outside of the super obvious. The other part of the piece that I talked about there, and by the way, I'll be narrating this for the lowdown tonight. So it's nice and neat for you guys in the morning. And that's essentially going to be the plan for the lowdowns until at least this season officially ends, unless we have big news. But essentially, whenever I write something, and that's going to be picking up a lot more soon, starting now, basically, whenever I write something, I'll have a lowdown for it. Outside of that, it'll be your typical full episode, part 1, part 2, and at times a part 3. But anyway, I'll be narrating this for the lowdown. That's for the RSS feed. Again, hit that subscribe button wherever it is that you get your pods, preferably on Odyssey. But let's I want to talk about the notion of free agency and the way that the Lakers are kind of anticipating utilizing free agency here. Their biggest swing for a center has to be via trade. They don't have cap space. You're probably looking at the taxpayer mid-level exception, which is about $5-ish million a year. You aren't going to get the kind of center that Luka would be excited to play with for $5 million. That's just not going to happen unless somebody takes a stupid pay cut, which, look, I can't say isn't going to happen, because money for free agency has really dried up out there, right? Gary Trent Jr. was on the veteran minimum last year. So free agency, though, for the Lakers, essentially the way that they're kind of looking at it, I'm told, is you're going to trade for the best available center, and then depending on what archetype that center is, you're going to fill in the gaps using the taxpayer mid-level and veteran minimum contracts. And so, if you trade for a Nick Claxton, who is a lighter framed, above the rim protector type, okay, you're probably going to be looking to add a bulkier Clint Capella, Steven Adams, Brook Lopez type of big, using the taxpayer mid-level, if any of those guys would be available for it. I think all of them are priced slightly higher than that, but we'll see. And then whatever gap beyond that, you're going to take an additional swing using the veteran minimum, at least one veteran minimum that the Lakers have at their disposal. And then beyond that, you're also probably looking at using a two-way contract on, the Christian Colocos or the Trey Jemisons. There is some chatter out there to Coloco potentially getting a legit NBA deal this year. A lot of teams, one, really liked him in Toronto. He was able to stay healthy all year. He's still really young. And there are teams out there that do have him on their radar. So if the Lakers are looking to keep Coloco, it'll probably have to be on a veteran minimum type contract. And I am told, I wrote this in the piece, that the Lakers did like Coloco last season, so they would be maybe open to that. And then, yeah, from there, it's just about complementing the skill sets across this roster. And for one thing, defensively, the Lakers desperately need probably multiple rim protecting bigs. They definitely need to improve their rebounding ability. We are seeing the difference that offensive rebounds make in these playoffs. And I think that's going to be a huge focus moving forward to help win that possession battle, is to grab offensive rebounds, create offensive rebounds, or stop the other team from doing so. So look for the Lakers to get big with at least one, maybe two of their center acquisitions, and then kind of go from there. Outside of that, yeah, JJ Redick, I'm told, still wants to do some 5-out stuff next year. He is going to be, I believe, pretty flexible with whatever roster he is presented. And maybe that roster doesn't call for very much 5-out stuff. But I do believe JJ would like to play at least some small ball, at least some pace and space basketball. And if you're going to do that, you either are going to go small with LeBron at the 5, which the Lakers are going to be looking to do sometimes. Or, if Rui is still on the team, the Lakers went with him at the 5 a little bit too. I hope they ditch the Jared Vanderbilt at the 5 project, because that was pretty ugly. But yeah, I think if you can't play him at the 5, I really don't know where you play him realistically in the modern league. But anyway, I'm told that JJ would like to have a floor spacing big who can rebound a little bit, can shoot the 3. In this case, I'm thinking like a shoot. He was a Laker at one point. Somebody help me out in the comments. I've talked about him before. He is, I think, in New Orleans right now, or Atlanta. And no, he's in Atlanta. He was part of the DeJounte Murray trade. Help me out here. Not Brooke Lopez. It's Nance, Larry Nance Jr. And, if the Lakers could maybe pry him from there for the taxpayer mid-level, that would be a pretty great scenario there. Some injury concern, obviously, but his injuries tend to be of the weird freak variety. So hopefully, and I don't think there was any bad feelings as there were with like Julius Randle and Brooke Lopez, who wasn't really thrilled with his Lakers experience. Nance, I believe, liked it for the most part, and was, I don't think he would turn down being a Laker if they made him the best offer and gave him the best opportunity. So I would say he's of the center options out there who might be available at the taxpayer mid-level, who can get up above the rim and knock down corner threes from time to time. Nance checks a few of those boxes. So keep an eye out for his name coming up in the next month or so. Last thing here before we get out of here and answer maybe some of your guys' questions is that the Lakers have some guys, obviously, on their books or who will be leaving the Lakers books pretty soon, who play center. You have, obviously, Jaxson Hayes is the most notable of those players. He was the only guy of that center rotation who got even some minutes in the postseason. You have Alex Len, who the Lakers brought in late and then were pretty disappointed by because I don't think they watched him play basketball this year. You have Christian Koloko, who I talked about before, and you have Trey Jemison, the third as well. And of those players, if I was to rank the likelihood of guys returning, I would probably put Jemison highest because he would potentially be on a two-way. I would put Koloko slightly behind him, decent chance at it, where you bring him back on a veteran minimum contract to be the third best big on your team. I would say he comes in second. Giant gap. I'm talking like off screen somewhere down there in like purgatory. I would say Jaxson Hayes is next up at third because he will at least be in the league next year, I would imagine. But I doesn't sound like either side is all that interested in running it back. Jackson didn't like that his role disappeared in the postseason. The Lakers obviously don't love that. JJ Redick felt like they needed to have his role disappear. Jackson at one point thought that he was going to get a pretty nice little raise because of the way that he looked after the Luka trade. I think a lot of that money has kind of dried up. He might get something above the veteran minimum, but I kind of doubt it. And then on top of it, you're asking Hayes to go from starting last year to probably being third string, which I don't believe the Lakers think he would handle all that well. So all of that taken into account, and me personally, I don't want to see him be back because I didn't want them to sign him in the first place because of the allegations. And then we saw the scenario play out after TMZ found that video. I'm good. I like I'm good on that guy. And so I think it's pretty unlikely that Jaxson Hayes will not be on the Lakers next year. A lot will have to change if we do see him back. And then finally, Alex Len, I don't think he'll be in the NBA next year. And if he is, it won't be on the Lakers because they don't want to have a situation that we saw play out last year, where you entered the season with roster positions like 11 through 15, and none of those guys could basically play. The Lakers are looking to try to avoid that. If anything, they might bring back like a Markieff Morris just for chemistry in the locker room, a voice that LeBron and Luka both really respect. That could be something that they entertain depending on how productive they're able to be elsewhere at the bottom of the roster. But remember, you're going to have Bronny on the roster again next year, might have Markieff. That means, 13, 14, 15 there, or three of those guys, you out of the bottom five in your roster, you're hoping two or three of them can actually play without you feeling terrible about the minutes that they play. And you're already kind of down two spots because Markieff would mostly be kind of the Jared Dudley type. And then Bronny, I think, will probably be another year away from full on NBA readiness. So that means you got to hit on at least two or three other roster spots there at the bottom of your roster. And the Lakers, I think they would feel pretty good about it with Koloko. And if both sides were able to kind of come to an agreement and understanding on how things played out last year, maybe Hayes would be a decent option as your third center on an NBA rotation. But I would say probably it's far more likely Jemison is a two-way guy. Koloko might be on a 1-year veteran minimum. And then the Lakers look to use their taxpayer and trade assets to bring in center depth beyond that. All right. Let's go through some of your guys' some of your guys' questions here. Dodger Blue asking, if LeBron opts in, would that mean this is his last year? I don't think so. I would probably say he plays another year beyond this season. We'll know really quickly how LeBron feels about that, because I do not in any way, shape, or form see LeBron James of all people retiring quietly, just saying at the end of a season, yeah, I'm done. I don't see that. So I would probably look. Shams reported that he considers it likely that LeBron opts in. Jovan, I believe, has said something similar as well. I still think that there's a slight, very outside chance that he opts out and maybe works with the Lakers a little bit, depending on the financial situation there. They aren't as up against it as they were last year. So, maybe because there's a little bit more flexibility, the Lakers basically go to LeBron and say, hey, we're good. You can opt in or whatever, and we can work that out. But I think it is, if LeBron opts in, maybe even when LeBron opts in, we'll either find out very soon that he is calling it his final season, or that he has his eyes on playing potentially with Bryce another year from now as well. All right. Any more questions here? Yeah, I think that's it. I think I'm going to go ahead and end this one here. Again, I'm going to be live fairly early in the morning. So maybe if you guys are driving into work, you guys will be able to check out the show with Kirk and I when we review Luka Doncic's season, which was obviously broken up between the Dallas Mavericks and the Lakers. So we'll talk about that. And then tomorrow night, Raj and I believe, are going to be getting together to have our normal kind of conversations. Keep an eye also out for additional reporting that I do for Clutch Points. And then again, I'll put this in, I think it's just, yeah, there we go. There's the link one more time to the piece that I wrote for Clutch Points today. So until the next time you guys hear from me, I'm Anthony Irwin saying have a great rest of your day. Make somebody else's. I'll talk to you in a little bit.
Bye, everyone.